Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to the Music Lab podcast. My name is Dogg, and I'm so excited to be back with all of you for another episode of the podcast. Don't forget to like, follow, and subscribe to our YouTube channel, our social media pages. That helps us and helps the bands and artists like Steven. Also, check out our sponsor, Rawr Outfitters. That's Rawr. Outfitters.com. Don't just wear, Rawr. So, ladies and gentlemen, all the way from California, Mr. Steven Stiles, how are you today, my friend?
And the crowd goes wild. Hey, buddy. Thanks for having me, dog.
Man,
Yeah,
so
glad to be here.
you've had a little bit of a whirlwind since November, would we say, huh?
Yeah, just a little bit. Just a little bit. Things are going my way.
I mean, how does it
Most,
feel like when you started this project when I mean, because you're like most people at your age, you're not starting a musical project, even though you've played for most of your life. How are you feeling about this at this point?
we're feeling pretty good, because we had a little bit of negativity, because I'm not the young guy in the room. I'm not the oldest guy in the room, but to go out there. But I think for me personally, it's a great time to be playing music because I mean, it doesn't matter how old you are. It doesn't matter what you look like anymore. It doesn't matter, if you're skinny, if you're old, if you're a bigger boy. Uh, I mean, that them times are over, So it's a great opportunity for just good music. And if you're out there looking for good music, we kind of, before we start hitting record here, we kind of talked about that. People are saying like, there's no more good music. There, it's like, but man, it's out there. You just got to go look for it. There's a lot of great music out there right now. But I couldn't be, happier, right this second for, like I said, we started this project in October and it's cruising along. I mean, it kind of seems like sometimes you're not moving forward, but if you look back and the time that we've have into this right this second, I think we got to just keep my mind like, man, we're doing pretty darn good, more than most. So I'm blessed for that.
So, any idea of when the album will be released then, and how many songs are on the album?
Well, this particular project, we actually went in and recorded the an EP first,
Okay.
and we had the EP already wrapped up, and then I kind of sat on it for probably like 5 months before to figure out what we're gonna do with it. And then I was talking around, and you get all these promises, people talk, and hey, I'm gonna do this for you, I'm gonna do that for you, I'm gonna do this for you, and I'm an impatient guy. And if you know me, you're laughing right now. But I'm like, all right, I'm just not gonna wait for anybody anymore. Let's just do it. Let's just go for it. Let's jump in. So I opened up my own label, opened up my own Play MP account. We released it to radio, and we were off and running. There was a lot of no sleeping night, sleepless nights, staying up, trying to, like learn these things, all the playlist stuff, all the streaming stuff, all this. I mean, I would literally go to bed at like 4 o'clock in the morning, just researching some of this stuff because I got tired of relying on other people, to help you, and they just don't call you back, or they, it's how it's the music business. But so we're just gonna go. We're going for it. We're just jumped in with both feet, and so far it's working out. I'm blessed. Knock on wood. You know.
So, for an artist who wants to start their own record label, like kind of walk us through like that process, because obviously it's can't be just an overnight thing, right?
Well, I mean, a little bit of it is, and a little bit of it's not. I had to do a lot of research on that, and then what we ended up doing is, just go ahead, just like any business, go get a DBA, set up your label, set up your accounts, get your LLCs, just like any business you would do. It's just a record business. And then for us, what we went and did is we signed up and got a label account with a company called Play MPE, which is most people will know. It's like for the ones that don't, it's like kind of the industry standard right now how you get your songs to radio, and that took the longest. That's a little bit of a process, and really what helped me out getting that account for me personally was my past. I was signed with a band called the Regulators in the early '90s with a band called on Polydor Records, and so I do have that kind of helped me go, okay, he's legit. So they're that way they're not just letting everybody just put music out there. They kind of filter through it, and then and you just go from there, like just like any business.
Wow. So you're with what's the band called again? The Radiators?
Back in the day, it was called the Regulators. Yeah,
Regulators.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
So how did that band come about? Like, who was the lead singer? Were you the lead singer? Like,
Yeah, it was that thing was kind of crazy. Back in the day, I was in a band called Red Rebel Devils. We were kind of doing like I've always had a country background. Country music's in my blood. And my dad. We can probably get into that a little bit later. My dad played with a lot of country artists, and but I was in Hollywood at the time, and it's like not a lot of people doing country music in Hollywood. So I got a couple folks to get together, and I kind of joined their band, and I kind of was writing a lot of the songs, and we kind of did like this kind of mix. I would say kind of like Black Crows. We were kind of pre-Black Crows, if you want to say it. And I'll tell you how old I am. But we were out doing that thing. We're selling 2,000 seaters. We're doing great. And we had Dennis Ryder was our manager at the time, who has Evanescence, L7, had the Regulators, were on the later, Ugly Kid Joe, a lot of rock bands.
Yeah, yeah.
And so we went through every label over and over and over again. They'd come out, and back then it was like we have to have a label. Well, they're not country, they're not rock. I mean, they're not this. I mean, I had two backup singers on stage with us, and just was doing something different. And so we got passed up so much that eventually I did a show. It was us and the Regulators and Leonard Skinner this particular time. And after the show, I get a call from my manager saying, "Hey, dude, the Regulators want you to come sing from them." They were having some issues with their singer at the time, and I'm like, I just had a baby. I was like, what do I do? We've been, at this for a long time. What do I do? And then they put those numbers in front of you, and I'm like, all right, let's go for it. And so I said, all right, where do I sign? There's good things about it. There's a little bit of regrets that, kind of I left my bros in the other band to go, move forward. But, it is a business and you got to eat. So that's how that came about.
Do you still have that animosity with those former band members, or have you
Oh
guys
no,
gotten
no,
along?
no, no, we're all good now. It came out later. We're all great now that we sat down, and everybody's moved on to other projects. They're all doing well on their own. To tell you the truth, after I left the band, they went to Europe and signed a record deal with their new singer. So, maybe it was me the whole time. I don't know. Uh, they did play my songs though, so it's all good. But no, we're all good to this day.
So, how often did you play Europe, and when's the last time you've been to Europe?
For me, I haven't gone to Europe yet. Me
Okay.
personally, those guys did. My old bandmates, they moved out to Europe and they started the scene out there and ended up getting a deal through a label out there. We need to go to Europe, so we're trying really hard because our our biggest places are Sweden, Denmark. I mean, all the metadata. Australia, we're doing great in Australia, Germany. So we're that's kind of on our list of things to do. And as you know, it's not cheap to go tour Europe. So, maybe we go as a duo or something, me and my guitar player, but we're trying to find someone that we can kind of jump on with them. So we're definitely working on that.
Yeah. I have never been to Europe. I've been to, most of the Caribbean, Mexico, Canada, all that, but I know that when I go there that I'm not going to want to go home. And that's kind of why in my mind, like that's why I haven't gone, but because everybody I talk to, the bands that I
They
talk
love
to,
it.
people, yeah, like it's just amazing. It's just being able to take a train everywhere.
I
Like,
had a
it's
friend.
really cool.
Oh, you froze up on me.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah. Yeah. I have a friend that actually went to Germany and he was there for 2 weeks and they just love music. And they love country music, folk music, Americana. And he went out there with like all his swag and everything. The first 2 days he sold out of all his merch. And then he was there for the rest of the two. People are so kind. They want this. They come stay at our place. They feed you. It's just you know, it's different. And then and he came back with $15,000 in his pocket. You can't do that. You can't do that here.
Not unless you're Kenny Chesney, right? So when did you start first playing an instrument, and at what age did you kind of, I mean, obviously you put out this project, but like at what point did you decide in your career that you wanted to be a musician?
I started when I was 12. I played in my first band. I was 12 years old. And I started out as a drummer. I played drums for my first three projects. And one time our singer didn't come to practice, and we had a show coming up, and I already knew the songs. And my guitar player's cousin was a drummer. So I moved up to singing. Wasn't the best singer at that time. And then my buddy's cousin jumped in on drums. And I'll just be honest, at that age, you get up there and boy, you got a lot of attention from the girls, being the singer. I'm like, whoa, I think I like it up here. But man, we're underage playing the Chuck Landis Country Club in I think it's in Van Nuys or somewhere in the San Fernando Valley, and where we'd have to sit outside. And then when it was our turn, because it was 21 and over, and it would be our turn to come in, we'd play, and then we'd have to leave the venue. Yeah. So it started pretty early on.
And talk about, before we started recording, you kind of really, made it a point to say like it is important to you that you let everyone know that you're from California, and that this, whole recording in Nashville thing, like that's kind of taken off. Like talk about like, your state of that.
Yeah, because our conversation was like, and I mean, no offense, but it doesn't bother me if you do it. I mean, it was a conversation that was brought up the other day, is like these guys come through California and they're touring, and they're Nashville recording artists. They're independent artists, but they say Nashville recording artists. I'm not quite sure what that means, me personally, and if it helps them sell tickets, that's great, but for me personally, I mean, I'm in Nashville every month, so don't get me wrong. I love Nashville. I have a lot of good friends in Nashville, great relationships in Nashville. But for me, it's a thing for me. It's like I'm from California. I'm born and raised in California. I'm a California country boy. My dad was in the country music business, and he's from California. Well, originally from Kentucky, but my dad played in a band called Nashville West with Clarence White, Gib Gilbo, and Gene Parsons on drums. It's a very classic cult record. If you're a guitar player, you probably know that record for Clarence White in there. But they used to play the El Monte Club out in El Monte. But there was a big thing back in the late '60s, early '70s. There's a big place that you'd play the El Monte Room, you play the Palomino, you go out to Bakersfield, you play out there. Believe it or not, there was a place out in Palmdale called the Jack of Diamonds, and these are like old honky tonks that really didn't get famous by name, but I mean it's those places that really started all that. And there's a couple books out there that if you read, it's like they get a lot of credit for starting that California country sound. And then and then some of them went off to be members of the Byrds, and then went off to be Flying Burrito Brothers. They were in there, but the dad was in the house band for Bakersfield International, so where they're recording a lot of that stuff out there. So most of that stuff that came out of Bakersfield International, Dad played on there because they were the house band. And then one of the first guys that came through were Vern Gosdin, the Gosdin brothers. And so Dad wrote a lot of songs for them, and then ended up, later in life, being his road bass player amongst, like, he plays with Glenn Campbell, Linda Ronstadt. I mean, a lot of those cats. Dad used to tell me stories where he hired a Vince Gill for $20 a night to play guitar for the night in the house band. These weird stories. Another story he used to tell me, this little kid used to come by the studio all the time in Bakersfield, just bugging him. He just would just like hang around the studio all day long. Hey, can I have a cigarette? Can I get a cigarette? Can I have this? Can I have that? Hey, what are you doing? And that guy ended up being Waylon Jennings. So so stories like that. And then, I mean, then I get into, go ahead.
Yeah, yeah, that's a good segue. So, like in the, I mean, and maybe you don't know this answer, but like in the 60s and 70s, and maybe even in the early 80s, like did the Texas country artists and then like these Nashville country artists, would they tour California or was that not really happening in that time?
Nah, some of them would, but it was pretty like it's like California had its own little thing where they would all go do the circuit, and and then like Texas had its own circuit, and then like kind of the Nashville thing had its own little kind of circuit, back in the day for the up and coming guys. Obviously, the bigger boys they travel through the country. But
Right.
what we were talking about earlier too is like this generation of the TikTokers and the Instagram guys. They basically they never even really done a live show. They didn't have to do the club tours. They didn't have to put in the hours. They sit in their room or whatever and they record themselves over and over to the point where they blow up big enough, and then next thing you know, they get signed, and the very first show they're playing in front of 20,000 people. It's a crazy thing. I mean, I think that's awesome. Like if they cut out all that time, is that's why there's no such thing as artist development anymore. That is artist development.
Right.
They just toss you out there.
Well, it's social media. That's really what the artist development is now.
Yeah, it's social media. Yeah. So, if you're not on that, then it's like, I mean, I think that's the one thing that's just kind of hurting us right this second, because we talked about that, so this generation is like, I mean, they come out of the womb, already filming everything that they're doing. It's very natural for them to automatically just document and diary everything, every second of their lives, which is how social media works.
Yeah.
So we have to kind of adjust to that, and play the game.
It seems like that's one of the first things that bands do that get to a certain level is they will hire a social media team because it is. I mean, it's so important and it's such a thing that they don't want to do.
Yeah, because you
Like
got a
kind of,
hundred things you got to hunt. Especially for me, I'm one guy doing all these other. I'm wearing all these hats, so I finally had to break down and get radio promoter. I had to break down and get a publicist. I just broke down and had somebody take over all my web design. My taking care of my website, redesigning my website. My daughters just jumped on board and have now, Dad, we're taking over your merch. So they're redesigning all the merch and they're doing just a fantastic job. And so now we just last week hired a social media team to kind of help us move along in that realm. And I'll make an example of there's a band out there called the Bands of Legion, the band is it something Band of Legion? I think it's called. They're two guys duo. Um, Great guys, great songs, just blasting the social media, hitting the social media, hitting it, hitting it, hitting it, hitting it. So eventually they got so big on social media that they signed with Red Light, which is one of the bigger companies. And their very first tour that they did, every town that they went into sold out. You know what I mean? So, I mean, if the team is right and you got that part down, I mean, you're gold. It's just that's just the game. So we're a little behind on that. We're playing catch up, but hopefully we'll get that up and running here soon.
well, you mentioned about playing to country stations. Talk about how, maybe compared to like a hip hop or like a rock band, how important it is to get your songs on country radio in particular.
Yeah, country radio, if you there's different stages to country radio, as you know. I mean, you have like non-reporters, you have reporters to Music Row, and then you have the big dogs. For an independent artist these days, unless you got a couple $1 million running, then you can make it happen. But most of us don't. So it's really hard to get on some of the bigger corporate stations still. There are some stations around the country that are still independent artist friendly. Well, they'll leave a couple spots open if they really like somebody. I have several, corporate stations around the country that are giving me love. They just love the song, they love the music, and they're like, "Hey, we'll get you in as much as we can." So that's a tough game. So back in the day, they used to say, $1 million in 18 weeks will get you a number one. But these days I think there's a number one like every other day or every 3 days. So there's just it's just a lot of music. But the way that we do it, if there's any other independent artists out there and you know are trying to go down this right route for radio, you can go to media base. It's going to cost you 60 to $70,000 to pitch to them, or you can go the other route and do the non-reporters, the reporters, right? Music Row reporters, and then you pay a certain amount for that. But what we end up using that for also, you got to think about is you're using that for data. Data is king, right? So we get to see exactly who's adding our song, into rotation in Texas or Arkansas, Oklahoma. We get to see who's giving us love. So then we take that data and we go, okay, this is where we need to book shows because we're getting airplay in those shows. Let's just really focus on those regions. So you got to really choose where you spend your money because I have a couple friends that they have a lot of backing. I have one particular friend and his project, they've burned through probably $400,000 worth of, and they're not moving forward. So it's really, really surround yourself with your team, take that money and, you really got to the ROI on it has to be, you got to have something back, even sometimes we're getting these offers to do these shows for, I think we did Dustin Lynch. Now the pay to do Dustin Lynch for us as a small independent artist isn't what you think it is, 25 to $3,000. You got to cover that can't cover five guys in a van carrying a Wells cargo, right? But you have to think of it as a business, right? So if you have a bubble chart, we put that bubble up here, and you say $3,000 in advertising costs, right? Because they're going to pay you three, but it probably costs me another three. So $3,000 is going to come out of my pocket. But I just played to 5,000 people. You know how long it would take to play to 5,000 people, touring the country, playing these small clubs, in a Sprinter van. It's just, and then having to feed five guys and put them in a hotel. So just really got to think smart, and that's what we've been doing this whole time with this team. And then we have a lot of people that want to work with us, but it's like, do you want to work with us or do you just want to get paid? So you really got to be vigilant and do your homework, do your research, and make sure that they're really on board. Because I have a lot of people that are working for me right now that are getting paid a lot more money to work for somebody else, but believe in the job in the project enough that they'll cut their rate. If they really believe in it, they'll put in the time because it's good for everybody.
Everything's negotiable, right?
Everything's. I said on a panel discussion one time. We go to this great event, and they don't pay me, but I'm going to say I've been to a lot of these songwriters things, and they're all over the country right now. These songwriting events. If you're an up and coming songwriter, and maybe you don't have a ton of people that you can talk to or whatever. There's a great one out there called Durango Songwriters Expo. They do this thing twice a year. One's held in California, and I think the next one is in Colorado, in Broomfield, Colorado, in October.
Okay.
It is worth your time and money. I mean, believe me, because the very first time I went there when I was trying to get back into the business, is I started hitting these, and it was really weird. I happened to be out in Las Vegas, and I told these people where I live, and they go, "Oh, well, they hold this thing, Durango Songwriters, right where you live." And I'm like, "I've been here for 5 years, and never heard of it, right?" So anyway, I go for the first time, and let me tell you how it worked for me. You got to network, you got to connect the dots. Now, if you don't network, then that's on you. But you have all these industry people, all the A&R people, all the publishers are all coming into this one spot for 4 days. That's, you know what I mean? You are not going to it would take you 6 months to a year to meet those same people in Nashville. And they're there for you. You can walk up to them, just network. And so I went to a few of these, and within probably my third one, I got a cut, so it's like, so definitely, that's the way to go. Network. And I'm saying, like, if you're spending your money, I think that's the best one out there. I mean, Megan Trainor came from there. So I was on the listening board for that. Um, it was right with a hit songwriter thing. It's kind of a business. You pay your 25 bucks, you send in your song, we pick your thing, and if you win, you get to write with a hit songwriter. Well, Megan sent her stuff in, and I'm not gonna lie, when I first heard it, I mean, she was 12 years old, right? So I'm like, but she's producing it, she's singing it, she's doing it, and I was like, I'm not a pop guy, so I was like, my ears probably just didn't hear it. But she ended up winning that thing. That night, she wrote with Al Anderson and a guy named Chris Galbuda, who's just an amazing talent. If you don't know Chris, look him up. And so they write this song, Can't Blame a Girl for Trying, which literally they wrote it that night. 2 weeks later, Sabrina Carpenter cut that song. And then that's where her career took off. And then she signed to Big Yellow Dog, which was Al and Chris's publishing company.
Okay.
They don't own it, but they were signed to that publishing, brought her in, and then the rest is history.
Yeah.
So it's things like that. The business is a crazy business, man. I might have got a little off track there. Sorry, buddy.
No, you're good. So you did kind of mention about touring. So, I know like when I talk to bands from Texas, they say, yeah, it's great because we're in the middle of the country, but it's 5 hours to get out of the state. So like talk about living in California because you're on the West Coast, like it's not easy to try and tour the country, correct?
It's yeah, it's a little tough. So like I said, that's where we use that data. So we use that data to specifically kind of hit that region. We do things by region.
Yeah.
We don't try and hit everything across. We'll do a 2 week run, and we'll just, we just focus on that area. But you bring up Texas. Texas is its own beast, man. There's artists that don't even have to leave Texas,
Yeah.
and then even trying to get into Texas, it's like Texas. Like if you say if you're from Nashville, man, it's really, really. There's a little bit of a crossover going on right now,
Yeah.
but back in the day, shoot, what was his name? There was a big Texas artist, Charlie. I'm sorry, whatever. But
Charlie Crockett?
no, not Charlie Crockett.
Oh,
I forget.
okay.
But Nashville hounded him for years and years and years and years to try and sign a record deal. Dude, sign the Universal. Sign the Universal. We'll give you this much money. And he's all, dude, I make $2 million a year in Texas, and I can drive home and sleep in my bed every single night. So that's just depends on where you want to be on your career. If you want to be this big international megastar, then yeah, Texas just supports itself. I mean, all those Texas artists, it's its own beast down there. It's its own ecosystem
Yeah,
for music. They support themselves down there.
they sure do.
And
So,
in California, oh, sorry, go ahead.
yeah, no, go ahead.
No, and as far as California, I mean, there are different places in California. Countries big in certain parts of California. I want to say if you're a country artist and you're coming out to California, I would really focus on what we call North County. It's like the Central Coast, but the North County of Central Coast, which would be San Luis Obispo, Templeton, Arroyo Grande, Paso Robles. I mean, they love their country music there. And in Paso Robles, we have the California Mid-State Fair. I think they were just up for ACMA Fair of the Year last year, and we get massive concerts up there. But I mean, they love their country music. And what's really, really cool is we have a lot of Texas artists that come through that area, and those guys, like I said, they do their research, and like I said, they know their good music. We just opened up for Uncle Lucius not too long ago up there. I don't know if you know those guys.
Amazing.
Um, yeah, yeah.
Amazing.
So,
Yeah,
dude,
Kevin's a great dude. Yeah,
no, dude, I'm gonna tell a story real quick. Sorry, I don't know how much time we have, but I want to shout these guys out. So we get a phone call from the promoter and says, "Hey, will you do an opening slot for these guys?" And we're like, he's like, "Yeah, I'll do it." And it's basically no pay, $200, something crazy. But I love those guys. I would have done it for free. Um, but they wanted me to do it acoustically, and I'll do the acoustic thing, but my thing just comes better across. Comes across better with the band, right? The full band. And so I said, hey, I'd really like to do it full band. can we see if that's possible? And I get a message back from their tour manager saying, hey, yeah, we're cool with the full band. And this venue that they're playing is probably 800 to 1,000 seats
Sure.
and very small stage, very small stage. Those guys, to accommodate us, moved their equipment out of the way so we can fit on that stage. Who does that? I've never played for any show where a headline even cares that I'm even there. They don't care anything about me. They don't care if I play on the floor. These guys were just super genuine, super cool. They went completely out of their way to make us feel welcome. And I just want to say, thank you. They gave me an opportunity to do that, and did something they just didn't have to do, and which what you just touched on. It's that's their personality. They're cool people, man. They know how it was when they were coming up, and that's one thing I don't really understand in this business too, is like everybody knows how hard it is to elevate. And then some people get to the point where it's like, well, you can't have a slice of my pie. You can't even have some crust. And they kind of, kind of talk down on you, push you down. Where, man, I'm all about uplifting. If you call me and you ask me a question, hey, do you know this guy? Do you know this guy? I may not give you their personal phone number, but what I will do is if I believe in what you're doing and you deserve, I'll help you. I'll make a phone call. Where some people won't even do that. But, it's like I believe this, dude, we got to encourage and lift everybody. It's music, it's what about this is a segue right here into my single Whiskey and Vinyl is really what does music do? Music heals, man. And doesn't matter as people connect to the music, what it is. You can be in the bad mood, you put your favorite song on it, just you forget everything that's going on in your life. Or, if my song Whiskey and Vinyl is more about the emotional side of it, man. It's just like, man, I'm kind of depressed. I'm kind of down. I'm just gonna, I'm gonna chill in my room. I'm gonna put on my favorite record, and yeah, and the music understands you at that moment, man. Or maybe like one of your friends just don't get it. I guarantee there's a song out there that gets you, and will understand you at the moment that writer went through that exact same situation that you're going through, that you're not alone. Music just moves the soul, brother. So
Well,
that's
first of
me.
all, I have to tell you that Whiskey and Vinyl is one hell of a song, my friend.
I appreciate that, brother.
It is like wow, like that song should be on country radio. There's no reason why that song shouldn't be on country radio.
Yeah,
I
I mean,
mean,
we're getting the love on country radio. We're just not on big country radio, and I think it'll happen. I think we're going the grassroots route. I mean, one of the questions were for me is like, what do you want to, do? I'm staying authentic to myself. I'm not going to chase any trend. I'm not the red solo cup guy. If that's what you're coming to my show for, we're not gonna, I'm not gonna
not
come out.
selling about Applebee's.
I'm not, well, I mean, he made a lot of money off that song, but I'm not gonna come out throwing a 12 pack of beer up and hype you up. I'm not a hype guy. I mean, it's a great show. Or it's a very high energy show, but I'm just gonna stay true to who I am. I'm not trying to sell a gimmick. And I think, one of the things last year for me personally is that I've always written songs from the outside looking in. I can sit in a room and have a conversation with you for 20 minutes. You're telling me your story, and I can go home and put that on a piece of paper. But last year I decided like, all right, for my therapy is all right, I got to get some of these things out of me, and so I started putting my own stuff, being vulnerable and putting my own stories out on paper in these songs. The next record we're already talking about, we'll probably start recording that around October. I think it's going to be one of the best written records that I've ever done. And I'd like to say I can top it, but let's see what happens. But I've been very vulnerable, just putting my life on paper. So either people are going to connect, or they don't. But I believe a lot of people feel like I feel, and you're not alone. You're not the only one feeling that way. And when you put it on paper, you wouldn't believe how many emails I get about Whiskey and Vinyl. And we have another song that we just do in our live set that'll be on the next record called Carol Side, is the name of the street that I grew up on, and it touches on some pretty heavy topics. I mean, I don't know if it would be a radio song, maybe it would, because radio likes to tend to kind of, you know, make sure everything's happy. Everybody, make them happy. Don't talk about real stuff because we don't want to, bring everybody down. But I believe we are in a generation, because we touched about it earlier. Look at these 20-year-old kids that are coming out right now. Listen to the lyrics of Taylor Swift. Hey, listen to the lyrics of these songs. I mean, she's just putting her life on a piece of paper. And for every little girl, or every grown woman out there, I mean, majority of them have gone through that experience and know exactly what she's talking about. That's why she's so huge. She connects lyrically with talking about real things, and I think that's what country music is missing these days, as far as country radio. And I don't think that's going to change. But if you go searching for it, you're going to find people who are talking about, everyday real music, and real subjects that everybody is dealing with. We're all dealing with it. So don't ever feel like you're alone.
I also like that country is kind of finally caught up to rock and every other genre, because we go down to South by every year,
Yeah.
because it's one of the best festivals in the world. And I noticed, I want to say about 3 years ago, there started to be this trend of more female fronted bands. You're
Yes.
finally seeing that with country now. I mean, Ella Langley, Lainey Wilson, I mean, obviously Carrie Underwood a little bit before that, but all of these, female artists, like, talk about how like that kind of changing a little bit of the dynamic in country music right now.
Dude, it's massive, and kudos to them because they're killing it. And I think what's really cool is, um, from my perspective, as guy looking in, where they were making these female artists had to look a certain way. They all sound the same. They just, hey, if we're going to put you out there, we got to doll you up. We got to do this. Or a lot of these new artists are coming out where, they're letting them be themselves. And man, there is a huge, huge market right now for these female artists. And I'm glad it's happening, because it needs to be out there.
Yeah. More
Yeah,
people to the pie, right?
yeah. Well, I mean, they're talented. Yeah, I mean, they're just that's just ridiculously talented.
Mhm.
And I mean, for goodness sakes, I mean, Lainey. I mean, it's like she just came out. That was her gig. Luckily we got to see her in her early stages where she came through to the North County here, played a
Okay.
place called the Barrel House. And that girl don't care if there's 5 people outside. It doesn't matter. That girl acts like she's playing to 200,000 people. She gives it 110% every single night. She's just born with it, and she's just great. Ashley McBride, I love her to death too. She's writing some really deep stuff and just real. She's not trying to be something she's not. I mean, every morning what is it, Breakfast with Ashley or whatever, coffee, whatever she does in the morning. I watch that show and her little podcast or whatever she does through social media. I mean, she don't care. She just get out there. She got a cup of coffee, no makeup on, no nothing, just as raw and vulnerable as you can get. And then I mean, we don't have to really say Ella because Ella's just killing it right now. She's killing it. It's yeah, all of them.
So, from a songwriting perspective, do you prefer to have music first and then lyrics, or are you more of a lyrics first and then music when you write your songs?
Man, that goes two ways for me. If you ride in Nashville a lot, you kind of get into a room with 5 guys. Every room we all grab our phones, we kind of scroll through. Hey, I got this hook, I got this thing, I got this thing. Kind of start with a hook or whatever. Where all of us too. I mean, I probably have 4 little 1 terabyte, thumb drives that I hooked to my phone to get all the voice things because you're on the road all the time, and then you're driving and you're tapping and you get this lyric or I just happen to stumble across like something and I'm like, oh my gosh, that's a great lyric. And then all of a sudden I'll just like lately for me, lyrics have been coming like I don't know what's going on right now. But I'm being blessed with some really killer lyrics.
You're in the
But
flow state.
mostly for me, lyrics, I'm not the best guitar player in the world, so it's like if I didn't have a capo, all my songs would be exactly the same 4 chords or 3 chords and a lie. Um, but but yeah, for me, lyrics usually come first for me, and I
Yeah.
have a melody in my head, and then we just put the music to it.
So how many guitars do you own, and do you have a favorite?
I probably, I think not too many. I probably have 10,
Okay.
10, my favorite is this 19, it's a 38 Martin right
Nice.
here.
Yeah.
This bad boy right here. You
Very.
know, but right now that's my favorite.
Okay.
You know, my favorite, that one doesn't really leave the house. The price tag on that one's a little crazy. So that one we just kind of write the songs on. It gives me the inspiration and kind of stays here in the studio. My touring guitar believe it or not, is a Gretsch. Uh, what is it? DM25. You know, it's the D25M mahogany. And the
Okay.
thing that's really crazy about that thing, that was a $200 um, $200 yard sale fine. And everywhere I take it, people are like, "What is that? What is that guitar?" And I'm like, "Dude," and even new, you can get, you want to find the older ones, like anything in the 70s. I'm kind of like anything that's like, 70s, is usually you're going to find a pretty good acoustic guitar.
Yeah.
I'm mostly I just acoustic guy. And but I picked that up and had a good buddy of mine. He's a Luther here in Santa Barbara, John Mui, went through the whole thing and set it up for me. But man, every time we play that thing, it's like people are like, "What is that?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I paid $200 for it."
So do you have a memory of or of, a conversation with dad where specifically music wise he gave you any advice?
Get out of it. No, that was a joke. Um, no, I mean, you know, actually, I didn't meet my dad to my biological father till later on in life. So he wasn't around in the beginning. I met him later on. So we connected that way, and uh, really just keep at it. I mean, it's a tough business. I mean, if you don't even have to say anything. You can look back on his career and see everything that he's done. I mean, even that record that we just talked about, the Nashville West record. I mean, he never got a penny off that record ever. Even today, even before he passed, he didn't get $1 from that. So the business has changed in that way too, where they still take you can do these 360 deals and sign everything away, and it takes you $10 million to make $1 million. But back then it was just like they didn't think about the business. They just did music, you know. So and just thing is just if it's in your heart, if you're not having fun doing it anymore, then just stop doing it.
Yeah.
Because if you're just, if you're just chasing money, like to chase, because I ask people all this time, because I write with a lot of these up and coming artists, and one of my questions are, like, before we start, like, what's your end goal here? Are you just trying to be a writer? Are you trying to be rich and famous? Because there's a difference, if you just want to be famous, that's something different. If you want to be a great songwriter, that's something different. You really gotta, it's got to be a passion. And then, I mean, obviously, I don't do it for the money because we're not making a ton of it. Most of the time, it costs me more money to do it, but I'd be paying the therapist if I didn't. So that's the way I look at it. I'm enjoying it. It keeps me grounded, and I just love doing it. You got to do it for the love of music.
So you mentioned you have three grown kids, correct?
Yeah.
So, the situation that you just kind of presented to us with your dad, how did that affect how you raised your children?
Yeah, it's they're always around music the whole time, and a couple of them, do music. My oldest one is she's an artist. She does. They all write lyrics. My middle one writes lyrics. My youngest one's a music lover, and she's in her horses. They just got 40 acres up in Sebastopol, California, and I think they're up to 10 horses now, and I think like 4 pigs and 8 goats, and that's her life. She's a workaholic, she was a vet tech going to vet school, and so that's her thing. She's my little country girl. But
Yeah.
none of them got into music. they got into more of the business world. They're doing really well. They're all doing really well. Thank God. But they're passionate about what they're doing, and so that's my biggest thing is that you just got to be passionate about whatever you do in life. If you're not happy at your job, I know it's easier to say from the outside looking in. For me, it's like because you got to make money, you got to pay your rent and all that stuff. So but believe me, I think I'd take less money and be more happy at a job that I like. For me personally, because it'll eventually take a toll on you. You know. But yeah, yeah, that's their life lesson.
So, do you use your wife as like a kind of like a music style when you like? Do you share a song with her before you record it, or do you kind of bounce back and
I
forth with
do.
her?
I mean, she's not the biggest country music fan. That's
Okay.
the crazy thing. She's a rock girl, and but yeah, we do. I bounce them off everybody, like my kids, my friends, and everything. Hey, I have this great idea, and then they're like, yeah, that's not so great. Oh, Dad, don't release that one. Don't do that one. Hey, it's like, okay, all right. So I think this is great. Check this out. And they're like, nah, don't
Yeah.
do that one. Don't do that one.
So
Yeah.
we mentioned off camera about Nicole. What has Nicole and Brickshaw really done for you as a with your career? Just in the little time that she's been with you guys so far.
Yeah, she's a very short time, and but boy, it's taken a load off me. I mean, Nicole and her team over there are just killing it. I mean, obviously that's why we're here. She's gotten me a lot of podcasts, a lot of write-ups and everything, and it's one more thing that's come off my plate. And we were finishing up a podcast one day, and I was talking to the guy who ran the podcast, and I started saying, hey, come on out. He was saying, hey, come, I got another show. Come do this, come do this. And this is the hard thing is for me to get used to now is that Nicole gets off and says, you know, you tell them, just call me. I said, so it's a hard thing for me now. It's like,
Yeah.
hey, call my publicist. She'll hook you up. She'll take care of it. Let's get something on the books. Because I was so used to doing it all myself,
Yeah.
and she has to tell me, hey, you don't have to do that no more. It's like she's great. Her and her team, like I said off camera, it's like when she came on, I literally handed her this mess. So she had to really go through everything. She got a lot of patience with me, man. But I love her to death. That team over there is just phenomenal.
Yeah.
I mean, they don't treat you. I will say, like but everybody that I'm working with right now, grassroots and Nicole. It was really crazy because my graphic designer and my web designer out of London, I couldn't get anybody here to call me back. It's so I'd go months and months and no one's calling you back. And then I had a friend of a friend say, have a friend, but she's in London, but she's really good at what she does. I mean, she called me back in 10 minutes. I mean, she's very professional. And so now my social media person is a friend of hers who's got some pretty big artists over in the UK that's coming on too. I mean, it's kind of crazy that I had to go to Europe to find. I'm sure they're out there. I just didn't get the connection. So, but yeah, she's done a lot. I mean, so she's she's I think hopefully we're getting to the point right now she is starting to get cleaned up that she doesn't have to work so hard.
Right. So I got two more questions for you. My first
Yeah.
question is work-life balance. We always talk about that. How do you manage your work-life balance, and do you feel like you do a good job at this point in your life?
Oh, it's really tough because honestly, I still have a day job. I own a painting company. I have 25 employees and I run the day to day for that still.
That's
So yeah, even though I have foremen and everything, I still completely involved every single day. So I do that during the daytime and but which enables me to do this, right now in the middle of the day. And but I'm still very much involved with that day-to-day business for that. And then, as soon as I get off at 5 o'clock from that, I'm, about 6 o'clock, I'm doing the music thing till about 3, 4 in the morning. So then I'm back up, at 6, 7. I probably average about 3 to 4 hours of sleep a day. It's pretty brutal, but hopefully we'll flip that around. We're doing more music than we're doing the other stuff, and it's slowly getting there. The
yeah.
more people that will allow us to do this and spread the word, and go look at our, check out our website, check out our streaming thing. And as you know, even at our shows, yeah, we love to sell merch. That's great. It gets us gas money. It gets us to point A to point B.
Yeah.
But the biggest thing for an independent artist, as you know, you stated it when you started your show, is click that follow button. That's really what it's all about. It sets the algorithm. Like on Spotify, you subscribe, you hit the follow button. If you love one of the songs on there, man, hit it as save it as one of your favorites. That sets the algorithm. Sorry about that. Add it to your playlist, even though if it's just your personal playlist that sets the algorithm.
Mhm.
All those things. I mean, it's really, it doesn't cost you anything. All you have to do is hit the little button. It doesn't, there's nothing that's going to go bad for you. It's you can't have too many following, but we don't solicit you. You're not going to get hammered. Yeah, we may come up in your feed, and just if you don't like it, scroll. But to really help us out, that's the most important thing these days. If the more subscribers we have, and for you, I mean, you can get, your advertisers, your guys to help you, pay for this thing and bring on more artists, and take the time so you can spend the time. It's everybody knows how that works,
Yeah.
and it's not a gimmick, it's not a scam, it's just the fact of it. That's what we need to do to bring you good new independent artists, introduce you to independent artists, and and go that route.
Yeah, because you're not going to hear Uncle Lucius on country radio, not yet, at least.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of those guys. I mean,
Yeah.
even you take some of the biggest country artists out there, and if you hitting that Texas market, and there's a lot of great music out of Texas, and there's who we just had, Randy Rogers. You got Aaron Watson, Cole Wetzel, Parker McCollum's a Texas boy,
Yeah.
who's crossing
Calder
over.
Allen.
Say again.
Calder Allen.
Oh yeah,
He's
yeah,
out.
all these guys, I mean, especially right now, there's a lot of them. I mean, we
Yeah.
can just keep going on and on
Yeah.
about just freaking great music, just great music, lyrically, all these guys, the Cole Wetzels out of I might have mentioned them already, but coming out of Texas,
Yeah.
big huge Texas movement, coming out, and like I said, there's a bunch of guys from California, John Party's a California boy.
Yeah.
There's a lot of them that you just don't might not know they're from California, but
Right.
there's a huge California movement out here too, which has its own sound, and that's what I like about it.
Mhm.
I like that it's not homogenized. Don't get me wrong again. I'm not talking bad about Nashville and country radio for me personally. Is like, I mean, if I don't see the video, sometimes I can't tell who the song is. I mean, because they sound the same. I mean, we just saw Tucker. I just played CMA Fest, and then we went over and saw, Tucker Whitmore and Ella and Jelly Roll over at the stadium. But if my eyes were closed, I mean, Tucker Whitmore, I thought it was Morgan Wallen. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's just, but I'm saying it's like they follow that sound where, that's what, when you're writing 400 songs a day in Nashville, you got to make sure that those 400 songs, that you can't just make them for one guy. They got to go across the board. So that's why you get that, because those songs have to go somewhere. Someone has to cut them. So that's where you get a lot of those guys sounding the same. And our main focus coming up for the next record is, I love the old 70s band sound, for me. I love the studio stuff, but there's something about that organic band sound. And so we're really going to try and focus on that for the next record. So yeah, doing that, and then just writing my butt off, man. It's and even writing, it's like I think I wrote my first song. I didn't write my actual first song. I probably was like 17 years old, and was living in Hollywood, and my drummer was dating Casey Christopherson at the time. Chris Christopherson's daughter. And then I ended up like not having a place to live for a little while. Typical rock and roll guy. And she let me stay in their guest house, and her mom is Rita Coolidge, as you know, love her to death. And staying over there, I learned a lot from that, because you hear it from the horse's mouth. Not only do you hear these stories about, Bob Dylan and all this stuff, but what I learned from staying there was the importance of publishing and writing your own music.
Mhm.
And I wrote my very first song in their guest house, so, it's those little things in life that kind of connect the dots to get you to where you're at today. So
That's so cool. So CMA Fest, I've been to Nashville now twice. We went to Americana Fest last year, had a blast. But CMA Fest has to be a whole different animal. Talk about that experience.
Woo,
It's just a
brother, man, is Mardi Gras on steroids. Nashville in general right now is like Mardi Gras on steroids. I mean, all you go down Broadway. Here's the crazy thing: is like just Nashville in general on Broadway. We try to crunch the math in my head. All right, so you have all these bars downtown. Most of them are three, and they'll have a rooftop bar too. So they'll have four bands playing at the same time on each level. And so we tried to do the math, and we're like, at any given, and they'll do four shifts a day, right? So each one of those venues have four shifts for each one of those levels. And so we're thinking like, how many bands a day play down in that? It's got to be, oh, I think we came into like 560 bands a day play downtown, just in those clubs. It's insane to think about,
yeah.
and here's the real crazy thing is like, they're all talented. I can remember the first time I went to Nashville, I got on a plane. I had a connection of another friend who hooked me up with a lady named Jan Buckingham. She wrote Cleopatra, Queen of Denial, and a bunch of stuff for Whitney Houston, big writer. So I was really nervous. So I go out there, and I'm going around town. I'm meeting all these people, and I call home. I'm like, I don't know what am I doing here? Everybody's good looking. Everybody can sing. Everybody can play guitar. I mean, the postman can play better guitar than you. You know what I mean? It's but you just got to stay in your lane, do what you do. Don't worry about what everybody's doing. But CMA Fest is crazy, brother. I mean, it was amazing. I mean, the one thing that's cool about that, if you get there early and you get in line and get wristbands, I mean, you can see a lot of your favorite artists there. So I mean, if you can deal with the crowds and the rowdiness, I think you got to go. It's a blast.
Yeah.
They got the riverfront. They got like five stages going around town, and then they do Nissan. Where the night that we went, it was Tucker Whitmore, Ella Langley, Gretchen Wilson, Jason Aldean, uh, uh, and then they introduced that Florida Georgia Line was coming back that night. It was kind of cool how they did that. I'm sure you've seen it online, but
Okay.
if you didn't, all of a sudden they had on both sides of the stadium the lights shine over here, and they brought the guy out, that does the get ready to rumble, the guy,
Oh
the
yeah.
old guy, yeah. So they put him on this platform, and they said, in this corner is Tyler Hubbard coming in at one whatever is like a fight, and they bring him, they come walking in, they get to the center of the arena, they put him on this platform, and then they announce that the band's getting back together. I think it was pretty cool how they did that. Yeah, but yeah,
That's funny
it's a
because yeah, that's funny because our local country station, they're having Tyler as the headliner this year, like solo.
oh,
Yeah, so I
wow.
guess yeah, and that's in September. So did they announce a tour then, or they're
I
just
don't know if
getting back together?
they just announced that they're getting back together. So maybe they're probably next year they'll probably have a new album come out, which I think is great, man. I mean, it's sad to see, but you spend a lot of time together. It's just like a marriage. I mean, I mean, you're with those guys all day long, on a tour bus and just everything. It's a lot, So at some point you got to take a break from each other, and but I think it's perfect timing for them because I know they both did their solo careers, and I like the music, but I think them coming back together is a great thing. Me personally.
Yeah,
Yeah,
better together
yeah,
than apart, right?
yeah. I can't wait to hear it, man. It's gonna be special.
Yeah. So my last question for you that I ask most of my bands and artists, what is the ideal way for you to listen to music? Are you in the car? Are you headphones? Are you in your living room with speakers? Are you like at a concert? Like, what's your ideal way that you like to listen to music?
I like vinyl. That's kind of why we did the thing, that's why I hit that song Whiskey and Vinyl. But I'm still a vinyl guy. I love the sound. I love the warmth. I love, back in the day where, it was a little rough. The timing wasn't perfect. You hear all these little things. Uh, I like to do that. It's my favorite way. Other than that, I'm the same. I'm the same way. I'm a Spotify guy. I'm listening in the truck. believe it or not, though, the majority of my music, I listen to a lot of podcasts or talk radio when I'm in the truck, because I'm oversaturated with
Yeah.
the music. But yeah, I mean, I'm still streaming too. I'm guilty. As much as we want to complain about, not getting paid from Spotify, I mean, it is what it is. We go there and you have access to a lot of music,
Yeah.
and hopefully that whole model changes a little bit. I know now we got the big AI thing. We don't have to get into that, but
Yeah.
I just got a notice from Tidal, Tidal streaming. So now Tidal is like refusing to pay royalties to AI music. So hopefully that becomes a trend,
Yeah.
because AI is really going to put a lot of people out of business. Like, I mean, if you want to be honest, I know some of these guys, and if you're writing, I'll write 10 songs a week, right? So you can't demo all those. I mean, $1,000 a pop, even at a publishing company, it doesn't work like that. You got 10 writers at a publishing company, and then you have a meeting on Friday. They go through the best of those 10 songs, and they're only gonna demo 4 of those. Doesn't mean that your song wasn't great. It just meant that day it probably wasn't the best one, and so it'll never get demoed. Where these days, you can upload you prompt it, like, I'm guilty of it a couple times. I really don't like to use it, because now really what AI does is it just kind of rips off, right? So it doesn't create, it just takes everything that's already out there, and then by you putting in your melody or whatever you're putting in to it, you just added to the beast.
Right.
So we stay away from that. But I see why up and coming writers use it, because they can't afford to cut demos on it. And I think of Anthony Smith's a big writer in town. He wrote Run, for George Strait and amongst others. Put out a post the other day. It says, even if you're gonna do these demos, these AI demos, which are fine, they're not always great. You're not going to use them to release a record. They're just to give you representation when you're pitching these things. Because
Right.
as much as they say, "Oh, I can hear a song acoustically," they can't. Most of them, they got to hear it produced.
Right.
But his idea was, okay, if you're going to do a demo via AI, and then but you prompted it, so when you did it on your voice recorder, it has a timestamp, right? So it's time stamped, and so if you load it into the AI, where you cut a demo in the future, you can prove that by your timestamp that you're the one who prompted that, because it will take what you put in there. It may change it a little bit, but the other thing that people don't know is that what we really don't know about AI, doing demos, or these guys putting their lyrics into them, and just their lyrics. Maybe you're just a lyric writer, you're putting it into AI and it's kicking back the music and producing it and everything. Well, we really don't know, intellectual property rights as far as like how far that goes. I mean, it says that you own, you own it. You can do what you want with it. You can promote it, but really, when it comes down to it, there's still the fine print. Sorry, I backed up. There's still the fine print that says, hey, technically AI is the co-writer on that song. So now, do they come after you if that song goes big? Do they come after you and go, hey, we wrote the music, we own 50% of that? So it's still in the unknown, but a lot of people are starting to speak up for it, and I'm glad Tidal came out and started doing that. Like, if it's AI coded for any reason, you can't earn royalties off it. The royalty pool is strictly for real creators. So if that becomes a trend, that would be super awesome.
I think that is, hopefully that is where we kind of are headed toward, but I just don't know. Like, there's so much unpredictability right now, and just the unknown is what I think scares a lot of people, right? I
Well,
mean,
especially when you see the big four cutting deals with Suno. I mean, they're all writing, they're all cutting deals behind closed doors. So like, okay, well, what's the deal with that? So we got to be really careful. It's not for country. I mean, it's not for country. It's not just for music.
right.
And so it's getting into Hollywood. It's getting everywhere. I have a friend that his best friend worked for Lionsgate making movies. And
Yeah.
so there's 4 of these big honchos that all left their companies that are now making movies strictly AI. And I went in, and I was privileged enough to go in and see some of this stuff. And I couldn't tell you the difference. I'm going to be completely honest. It looked like real actors. It looked like real films. It's insane, and it's just crazy where that whole thing's going, which becomes scary in its own right. It's like, they're so real now, and they can take our voice and they can put it on anything and make it look. I mean, like you said it's insane. So that's my biggest issue with some of that stuff. I got off topic. Sorry.
No, it's scary, but what is not scary is what you've put out so far. Thank you so much, man. Tell the people how to, follow you, your website, all that stuff, information.
Yeah, so if you go to, stevenstilesband.com, that's probably the best landing page. Go to my website and you can launch off there, get on the mailing list, you can see what we got coming up. We don't have a merch store up yet. We're working on that. But, it has the bands in town. It has all the Spotify links or wherever you get your music, iTunes, Apple, any of those. Click on those. Like I said, if there's anything on you like, hit follow, man. That's the biggest thing that you can do for an independent artist, and I'd like to thank you for supporting independent music because that's a big deal, man. It's people coming out and supporting live music and independent artists. I think it's the best time we've ever had to be able to compete, in this business against the big dogs. Is right now as an independent artist. It can happen. There's a lot of big artists out there, that we all know, Cody Jinks, I'll just throw that name out. He owns himself. I mean, you can get there, if you just build that team.
Yeah.
So we appreciate you doing that, and I'll say thank you for everybody that you probably had on here already. We need these little outlets to get our music out there.
Yeah. Well, Steven Stiles, thank you so much, my friend. Don't forget to like, follow, and subscribe to our YouTube channel, our social media pages. That helps us and the bands and artists like Steven. Also, check out our sponsor, Rawr Outfitters. That's
Roar!
AWR, outfitters.com. Don't just wear, rawr. And as always, ladies and gentlemen, I've been Dogg. You've been great. This is the Music Lab Podcast.